high value training from my perspective because it's a topic that has come up often in our one-on-one meetings, how to conduct a great listing appointment. We're going to focus on buyers next month, so we got to look at both. But if you're watching the training, please end to end this thing. It's less than an hour. We're doing a part 2 weeks from now. And for those that are here live, like let's workshop it. If you have any specific questions, interrupt me. Let's get after it because I know, little details make a big difference when it comes to how you approach your appointments and win people's business. So this is not just me talking for, let's say, 45 minutes. If you have any questions, I want to leave space and time for all that. So let's see. Is this being recorded? It should be. Kelsey, are you at least recording? Oh, my note taker's here too. Awesome.
I can. Do you want me to record it as well? Just in case?
No, I've actually got it. That works. No, thank you. Before we get into the topic, anyone have any thoughts or questions? Listing appointment in general. Before we get into anything I want to talk about, questions about the listing appointment, your experience with listing appointments, anything at all. Floor is yours.
I've only done 3, so I'm eager to hear what you guys do. Hopefully I have more this year and in the future.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Anyone else? Like I said, we'll do buyers next month, but I just want us to kick the year off with a really solid framework for how we conduct a listing appointment. My guess is for everyone listening to this, you're going to have a few things to work on after today, at least things you'll want to work on to make yourself more viable at the appointment. So yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, please let me know. The listing appointment is also, how do I say this? I don't want you to think that this is the only right way to conduct a good listing appointment. It's a little bit part art, part science. The art is you. It's how you feel a meeting ought to go. Said differently, if you were in a job interview, there's a lot of best practices, but at the end of the day, you've got to read the situation and use your personality and your strengths to win that interview. This is the exact same idea. But for those that don't have confidence in how to structure the dang thing, what to say when you get there, what happens when commission comes up in the first 5 minutes, that's where some best practices in today's training, I think, will be super helpful. But make no mistake, it's about you. It's about leading with your heart, your mind. And if you can rely on those 2 things and go back to a framework, you're going to have a lot of success. So today's more about the framework. I still need you to view this as 80% of that was good. I want to make the 20% mine. Make sense? Cool. Excellent. Let me share my screen and if you have anything at all, interrupt me. But for those who've been in coaching a little bit, you may have heard this already. My belief is everything comes down to the ability to attract, convert, and close business. You master those 3 core disciplines. You write a number on a piece of paper, how much you want to earn, you're going to do it. For the problems that I see in real estate businesses, there's usually a problem in one, if not all of these areas. Attracting would be the lead generation, the mousetrap, the marketing versus branding. A lot of what we spend our time focusing on is in the attraction phase. And yet attraction is just the beginning, because once you get the opportunity, how do you convert them from lead to client or stranger to I'll talk to you, or fine, I'll meet you. And maybe if the context of a listing appointment, we're interviewing 2 other people, but we'll also interview you. So you're a third choice. That's the converting part of the equation. And then closing them is walking away with the business. And so a good listing appointment, we're skipping over all the attraction stuff. We're heading right to the convert and close part of the model. And when you discuss converting and closing tactics, we want to frame it through, this is not about, making friends. I mean, you got to do a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's to earn a decision, to force a decision, and to earn that decision.
Get out.
Earn a decision and force a decision. So let's just get into how that all works, and we'll fly today. The listing appointment does not start when you get there. So I want you to think in terms of the inquiry comes in. What happens next between that and the appointment? We don't want to wait for the appointment to start building that impression. And so I would say by the time you sit down, if you've done it correctly, they already have some type of decision. Hey, this person's a good choice, a good option. And if you haven't done anything before the appointment to force that, you're trying to just kind of overcome that stranger danger. Who is this person? And do we trust them? Do we like them? So think of it in terms about the appointment itself starts before, but the appointment is about more just like reinforcing a decision, not getting them to get to know you for the first time. And so the gut check is, do you have anything happening in your business if an inquiry comes in between inquiry and appointment, other than maybe like a confirmation email? If the answer is no, we got to fix that first. But before we get into the how and what, let's distinguish. There's two types of appointments. Number one is what a lot of people in coaching, when I start taking them on, have experienced. It's when their past clients are going a second time, close friends, people that aren't interviewing other agents. The come list me appointments are common. And it's a lot easier to win those for obvious reasons. The second category is where you're going to grow your business outside of your current client base. And for anyone in lead generation or doing anything at all with like, expires, for sale by owners, geographic farming, listings to listings, all the way on down, you've got to learn how to win a competitive appointment. And so I would put even a referral, and this is something I learned the hard way more than once in my business, even a referral, meaning an agent from outside your market referred you, or a friend who you helped, like a past client or a friend said, hey, call Kelsey, she's wonderful. Kelsey's still got to go out there and treat it as a competitive appointment. Your referrals are competitive. We can screw those up pretty well. We hope our referrals are come list me calls. How many of you, does anyone here like drop in the chat or just say what's up? Have you gone out on a referral appointment and still not gotten the business?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, that's happened to me more than a few times. And it's like, finally, I maybe learned my lesson. Walk into those meetings with that number 2 energy, which we'll get into. But obviously, if you're doing lead generation, if they don't know you yet, you gotta start from kind of ground zero. So they're the same meeting. I don't want you to change much, but we just have a little bit like different strategy in how we approach the two. And it's more just a energy and where we put our focus, which we'll get into. But the bulk of today's training is going to be about the second, competitive appointments. This is what I see. Most agents that lose competitive appointments, they're too casual, neutral, too polite, or they're afraid to come off as salesy. Again, these are people that don't yet know you, don't yet like you, don't yet trust you, and we're there to earn all three. And if you end up doing that, you start to sound like everyone else. Let's say they're interviewing 3 people and you aren't assertive enough and you're too polite and you don't ask the harder question. You're afraid to sell yourself. You just start sounding like everyone else. And that's where fee becomes a part of the conversation early. Well, what do you charge? And you just got to be like, get into all that. Well, their only criteria, if everyone sounds the same, is to start shopping for the best rate. So we want to ensure that we sound different. We sound different. This is not the same person you're interviewing. You could have 3 other interviews lined up. What you're getting from me is a little bit different. And so they have a decision to make that's not just on the basis of fee and some of the other stuff that we often hear about. So what does that look like? There are 3 criteria that I would say are a must for anyone that's competing for a listing appointment, or 4, sorry. And this has to be conveyed really early in the process. I can assure you, if your resume isn't the best, meaning the neighborhood expert is coming out and they have sold 20 homes in the last 3 years in that neighborhood, and you haven't sold 20 homes in your career, you can still beat that person if they come in too casual, too cocky, they're complacent, right? And you come in and you demonstrate this early that you're sharp, you're enthusiastic about earning their business, you are an expert, and you want to win this listing. If you convey those 4 things, said differently, if you don't convey them, it's going to be harder to convert that person. If you convey them, it's going to be a much higher caliber conversation. The one that I think a lot of agents struggle with is want to win this listing. You're okay saying that you're an expert. You're okay that, you're sharp, fine. You dress well. You show up prepared. That's sharp, right? All these things are locked in, but you walk away without ever telling them you want their business. What's it going to take to earn your business? Maybe not in those plain English words, but I want to know by some point in the meeting, if I find that this is a good situation and we're vibing and stuff's going well and they've got other meetings, or I'm not sure of the status of where the competition is. Guys, like, all things aside, I like the sound of all this, and I would love to earn the opportunity to serve you. Anything I can do to do that, like make that decision easier for you today? Did I miss anything that's important to you? I really want to earn this, earn your trust today. I didn't rehearse what I'm saying, and in the moment you feel the energy and you come up with maybe the right words. But make it clear, guys, you want their business. If you do, assuming you do. If you're just like, oh, get me out of here, don't worry about it. You're missing it anyway. And so how it ends up looking is competitive appointments, you have to be confident, clear, direct, and controlled. Like, you don't need to do that on the other side. But if it's competitive, you really want to come off as you have a plan for them. You are confident in your ability to execute the plan, and it's not unclear to them what it looks like to work with you and have success. Controlled is a little bit different. That's more of the flow of the appointment, and we'll get into that here in about 10 minutes. But people that exude confidence, clarity, give you a directness, are people that, even if you weren't considering them, they kind of make you pause and think, okay, I don't know why, but I really thought that person was buttoned up. They had a good head on their shoulders. They're someone I could work well with. And so if you treat people in a competitive environment more like, hey, I'm going to make friends with them, I'm going to feel it out and not really ask for their business, but I'm going to make sure they walk away and they really like me, and that's kind of the basis of it, it's going to be harder to convert those folks. They may really like you and they may want to hire you, but someone that came along and demonstrated some of these other things are just going to beat you, because that's ultimately what they want. I mean, to be clear, if they don't like you, they're not going to move forward. So that's an ingredient which is on the list. But think of it in terms of, it's got to be clear and confident. Direct language helps. Asking for the business in a tasteful way. These are all very necessary ingredients when it's competitive. Any questions or thoughts so far? Does anyone feel like they go in a little bit, maybe, I don't know. Does it resonate that you may be going in a little bit too casual with some of these competitive situations? Or is this so far just like, yeah, no shit, John, I get it. No shit. Okay, cool. Let's move. All right. Converting does start before the appointment. I mentioned this, but let's dive into the specifics and audit what it is you do. When a lead comes in, let's say you get a call today and you're meeting on Saturday. Today's Thursday. You've got a couple days. A confirmation email goes out right away. And in this email, however, it shouldn't be excited to meet you. We should include some testimonials, maybe a client win, for example. Think of it as a case study, a seller you helped in the last 12, 24 months that had a great experience, maybe had some difficult odds and you persevered. A little case study, right? So testimonials, client wins. You could give an agenda preview, which would look like, the purpose of our meeting is the following, and it's a couple steps, which I'll help you understand in the next couple slides here. But the confirmation email is an opportunity to not just say, see you on Saturday, but to include some credibility boosting things. For anyone that inquires about coaching, I've got a video, testimonials, links, my book, everything is in that confirmation email. And there's a reason behind that. It's like, people who are looking at you and other options are going to engage with your stuff. And if they start vibing with it, it's like you're building rapport before you even show up. The second one is critical, something I found to make a big difference in my ability to convert at the first meeting. And that was some type of pre-appointment package. Digital is pretty darn saturated. Not to say you can't make a digital version of it, but I highly, highly recommend we create a physical copy. Think of it as like Could just be a bound book. Back in the day before things were a little fancier, we did a 3-hole punch in a binder, branded thing, tossed it in a package, and we delivered it the same day or FedExed it overnight. Where it finally ended for me is I got this really slick bound thing, and it was printed professionally. So the pages were all front and back, looking beautiful with a table of content. It was about 18 pages. I'm happy to share with you. If I were to make it again today, I would probably hone in on a few different things, but something that goes out that talks about your brokerage, your stats, your care and competency story, some other credibility builders, something physical that they can look at, touch, turn pages. May seem trite, but if you sent a nice email and then within, let's say 24 hours or even the same day on their doorsteps, a bound booklet about you, setting expectations for the appointment, you've now secured 2 touch points that build momentum heading into the actual meeting. I really want to make this clear. The ability to get it delivered the same day or next day, like overnighting it at FedEx costs you $25, let's say, but it's 100% open rates. If someone sends me a FedEx envelope, I'm 100% opening that. And if inside of it is something really sharp looking that reinforces professionalism, I'm impressed with that. I had a lot of people respond very positively to that, especially when it's competitive. You're looking for these little 5–10% difference makers. This is one of them. Now, why is that? It's demonstrating what? What do you think that demonstrates? That I spent $30 and overnighted you something that looks really professional. That probably I spent money to have created. What does that demonstrate? Anyone? I mean, it would demonstrate to me I want
care.
this. Huh?
It demonstrates that you care.
You're excited about it. You care. You want this. I mean, you don't have to come out and say it to show that. I mean, wouldn't it be really easy to send a little digital link to a free YouTube video? Hope they watch it. I'm not saying that's nothing. I'm just saying, does that demonstrate the same thing as a professionally bound booklet with a handwritten letter on page 1 that gets FedEx to them overnighted? It says 2 different things, in my opinion. Now, I could have a drip sequence of emails, a 5, 4, 3, 1 email that goes out prior to that looks boilerplate and generic, or I can have a handwritten something delivered with that package to your front doorstep. Which of those 2 would get more open rates and more credibility built? You might say, okay, I get it, but I'm just telling you 5–10% difference makers is the reason you're going to win and lose certain deals. Because when it comes down to it, there's usually 2 really good choices. You and the neighborhood expert, you and the best friend who just got the real estate license last year that you feel inclined to use. And who they're going to hire isn't the person on paper that makes the most sense, because their best friend's realtor friend is that person. Their Uncle Ralph who got the real estate license is that person. The neighborhood expert is that person. But people's behavior actually maps to a different thing, which is they end up hiring people that they believe are going to do a good job for them. That's truly what, fuck all the statistics and all that. That's what they want. They want someone who's really dialed into them and their needs. And if I can demonstrate that before the appointment, you have a little bit of advantage. Any questions before we keep blowing through here? Cool. Please interrupt me. So just to summarize, they decide emotionally more than likely before they decide logically. If you are competing against the neighborhood expert, you can win if you make more emotional sense than they do. Authority does beat friendliness. Now, if it's a come list me call, I know friendliness is the majority of what we're doing. So again, that's why I broke them out into 2 types of appointments. But if it's truly a stranger or someone that you have not met yet, even if it is a referral, what beats being liked is being the best. You don't have to love the person if you think they're your best choice. It helps if you really like them, but it's not what's required. I hate my accountant's personality with a passion. He saves me a lot of money on my taxes. I go to see him every year and get told a lot of mean things, not because I did anything wrong. He's like, you're disorganized. He always gives me the same feedback. I have a bookkeeper. I go to him so organized and there's nothing I could do to make him happy. But at the end of the day, when he files my taxes, I save money. I understand tax law. I'm really thrilled with his performance and it keeps me coming back. And every year I walk out of his office and I think, I'm going to fire this guy. I can't stand him. and I go back again next year. Now, I know as realtors, we can't afford to be total jerks, but does anyone know an agent in their market that has like a terrible personality that does really well? That's why. Because people believe at the end of the day, that person may kind of rub me funny, but she's going to get me top dollar. She's going to negotiate fiercely. So authority will beat friendliness, and preparation beats personality. Like, one thing that I found to be very true in growing my business was the better prepared you are for the meeting, the better chances you are to make a good impression. Now, that goes without saying, but it's worth reminding ourselves. If you are hyper prepared, meaning they start talking about comps and sales and you got a little presentation with all that in the briefcase, but before it comes out, maybe you made a few notes in your notes app about average cost per square foot, a few sales that are very much like theirs. And on the way to the appointment, you didn't memorize it, but you have those couple data points dialed in, and that part of the conversation comes up. They're like, yeah, we had a neighbor up the street and they sold in the spring and their model was just like ours and they got this number. And you say, yeah, and their average cost per foot, I believe, just check my note. Yeah, it was $300 a foot. You're here, so I think you would be there. They're like, oh, you know about that? Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's in my briefcase. We'll talk about it briefly. But yeah, that, and then you start bringing up some other data points. They're like, man, this person's sharp. And all you did was take an extra half hour to kind of dial in a few things. Preparation beats being cool and nice and all those things. Last but not least, a competitive appointment requires leadership. What I mean there is you don't want to go in there and say, how can I help you? What do you want to learn? You have an agenda, you have a process, and we'll get into how you position that so you don't come off like, there's a little yin and yang, give and take to this, but you want to lead in that appointment, in that environment. So let's go back to the beginning here. Sharp as a tack. Sharp as a tack. That's a term that I heard the Wolf of Wall Street talk a lot about in some sales training video. Anyway, it's something that I go back to because it's true, guys. If they don't buy that you're sharp, they're not buying anything else. And so what can we do to convey that? We don't have to get into like the granular, but know that being well prepared, being dressed for success, enthusiastic about the appointment, but more importantly, just like buttoned up version of yourself, coming to that appointment with good energy, even if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, even if you feel a little tired, like you put all that to the side and you go there and you demonstrate you're sharp, and it's got to come out early. If they don't feel that pretty early on, it's hard to get that back. And so what I do, guys, personally, and I still find myself doing this today when I'm like, in 2 weeks, I'll be in Northern California speaking on a stage in front of about 500 people. Wouldn't say I'm really like, I don't mind speaking, but 500 people, a little nerve-wracking. It's a 30-minute TED Talk style. It's a hard thing, right? Before I do that, in spite of all my nerves, I'm going to spend a few minutes and I'm going to do some things to change my physiology. I'm going to, say a few affirmations. I have a few movements I like to do that make me feel good. But if you're just like nervous and all that stuff, put your shoulders back before you walk in the front door. Kind of remind yourself that you're there for a reason. You deserve to be there, and you're going to go there and compete. You demonstrate sharpness. Got to demonstrate enthusiastic, because people will feel that before they hear what you say. A lot of your questions about what's a great listing appointment come down to the script and all those factors. Well, they're not going to hear what you say if it's something that doesn't feel enthusiastic for their business. Has anyone won a client over because they're just like, man, I don't know, but you seem like you're going to do a great job? Or have you ever hired someone in your life for that reason? It's happened to me many times. And when you boil it down, enthusiasm, for as cheesy as that sounds, becomes a big part of that. I'm an introvert who likes to be social from time to time. You guys see a version of me that's excitable, that's energetic, and I truly have that energy for my profession. I like what I do. But it's not like if you met me on a Saturday and we had a beer, you wouldn't see the same version of me. You would see a more toned down, more chill, less talking, more listening type version. But we all have different versions of ourselves. And I believe for my business life, they need to see, whether it's a new client or one of you guys, they need to see an enthusiastic version of me who's excited about what we're talking about that day. So you can show that part of your personality. It's not inauthentic to show a part of you. That's kind of the mode you have to be in this environment. You can go back once you win the business to who you are, but show enthusiasm, even if that's not inherently like your go-to. There's a lot of ways you can show enthusiasm. I made a quick list here. You can take a picture of this, but I think we already know. Active listening, prepared, good body language, curiosity. These are things that people just pick up on. It's not about the script, not about what you charge. It's about these types of things. We have to convey that we're an expert. Obviously, they need to know that you're their best choice. And that doesn't mean you have the best resume. Your best choice could just be the fact that you are prepared, you are going to work harder for them, and there's a few tactical things that you can say to demonstrate it. My favorite is saying, I only work with a select amount of people. Let's say you have this scenario I felt like happened to me quite a bit in real estate. Maybe you'll resonate with this. You have a couple big teams in your area. They got 100 people on your team. You're a solopreneur. Maybe you have 1 or 2 people on your team. You guys are both going out for the piece of business. Now, they might be, from a resume standpoint, far more like they sell hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate each year. They have this, that, and the other. Well, if you were to say they are the best choice because of that, you would be incorrect. Because the way I would sell against that is, yes, they are massive. They have all this like team layers and structures and complication. When you hire me, you get only me. And I only take on a select few clients at any given time because what we do and how we do it is such a white glove experience. We can only do that for a certain amount of people. And so when you work with me, I don't delegate. I don't have you talk to my 4 assistants. I don't have you talk to my junior agents. You have my cell phone 7 days a week. I'm the one negotiating on your behalf. I'm the one doing the marketing campaigns. I'm the one doing the stuff that actually impacts the sale. And you can hire a team of 100 people, but you're going to have 100 different cooks in the kitchen. Where for me, end to end, you get exactly what is standing in front of you today. So you don't have the resume, but you have the expertise for their situation and enthusiasm. You can sell anything you got. So expertise goes far beyond the resume. It's how you structure yourself, how you approach the client work, how you approach the key details of the transaction, such as marketing, negotiation, client communications, follow-up processes with agents who showed the place. Like you can demonstrate expertise all over the place. So stop thinking in terms of a binary. I either have the stats in the resume or I don't. People don't hire your resume. They hire the individual with the plan and a vision and confidence to execute upon it. And this does dovetail quite well into being more assertive. How do you show this? Well, I mean, people want to work with people who want to work with them. If I was coy about wanting to work with you as your business coach, we probably wouldn't be here today. Coy meaning too cool for school. Man, take it or leave it. I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. No, man, I think I can work with you. I think I can help you. Let's do it. My real estate life. Yeah. I'm not saying there aren't great choices, but I'm here to earn your business today because I believe I'm your best choice. And I've looked at your listing. I've looked at the situation, and here's what I think. So assertiveness is something that it's like a muscle we've got to flex in the communications, in the appointment. I would say the biggest part of this is to have clear recommendations and confidence to go with it. Like clarity and confidence as a package duo is a very good thing. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if I'm confident because I don't know the situation, so how can I have clarity? And like, I get it. What I'm talking about is your approach, what you say, how you market, how you approach the client communications. Like there's a few things you can control for. And if you clearly showcase that, make recommendations, and then just lead with confidence in your process and your approach, you've kind of done it. You've kind of done it. Now, obviously, there's some other layers to it as far as like how you handle the negotiations around commissions and pricing the home in different parts of the transaction that way. But assertiveness at this point is just about demonstrating. Any questions? Any questions at all? Thoughts or questions? Cool. Not in this particular order. I'll give you maybe a slight change to the order, but here's what the successful appointment is going to look like. It starts with some type of very focused listening very early in the appointment. It's got to be early where you get the story. The story's got to come out before you take the tour. The story's got to come out before you talk marketing, before you talk fee, before anything. We got to get the questions answered, because in that same part, we're making friends. So those two things go hand in glove. Those who get those who listen are going to find it very easy to connect. So if you just start pitching, walking in the door, talking about your pricing, your marketing, you've missed a golden opportunity to bond up with the client. So once those two are done, then it's time to take the tour. Now, I know there's agents that do it first. I get it. And maybe you have an easier time bonding because you walk in the door, set your stuff down, and immediately get the tour. I'm not here to change your approach. I just found that starting this way gave me an upper hand. Gave me an upper hand. So listen, make friends, then take the tour. And then we have time to showcase our care and competency, unique value proposition, and then go through next steps. So it's like the 50-yard line is the tour. Sitting back down and going through the stuff is how that happens. These are a few questions I like. I actually create a worksheet, which I'll gladly send to whoever wants it. But listen first questions are trying to really draw out the details, assessing what motivations they have, what expectations they have. I mean, these are the kind of like, if you don't ask, you may not hear it. So one of my favorite is like, what matters most in an agent? Like essentially, what criteria will you be utilizing when making the decision on who to hire to sell your home? Now, before that, you got to get ideal timelines, motivations. You know, have you sold a home before? Are you familiar? I don't want to waste time talking about something you've done 3 or 4 times already, and you already understand those parts. So you give them the element of control, but ask enough questions, listen for the answers. And I'll just give you my experience now. Sitting in hundreds of listing appointments, the more they talk about something, some aspect of it through this part of the conversation, they're telling you what's most important to them. Usually it comes out pretty early in the discovery session. Even if you ask a question like, what's your ideal timeline? And they start talking about getting a good price, like they'll pivot into what they want to talk about pretty quickly. So you can ask the questions, but see where the conversation goes, double tap on things they say to see if you can draw out more detail. This is not the time you're selling yourself. You're not doing anything other than listening and learning. And you're using these to make the second half of the appointment more productive. If we blow past this, or we don't get our right questions out because we're on a tour and we forget to ask some really key things, it's hard to play catch up on this. So what I like to do is early in the process, sit down. And if this helps you, do this. There's nothing unprofessional about saying, I love taking notes, just so I don't forget anything. Now we've got little AI things you can bring to the appointment, but for all my old school people, I just want to do it. I love taking notes. I've got a few documents. You mind if I just like take notes as I ask you a few questions? And you have literally a worksheet of important questions you need to go through. Now you may skip some because you realize the conversation is going a different direction, but I have brought out material like this to my appointments and filled in answers, and it's in a notebook. I mean, it's fine. So if you find yourself getting nervous and not asking the right questions, bring something to help yourself. I have this in Canva. If anyone wants it, Kelsey and I can gladly get it to you. But if you find this to be cheesy and you just like spend some time making sure you like remember the top couple questions, and I don't know, whatever helps you remember. But I just think taking something to help you on the appointment is perfectly fine. I still have worksheets on my desk when I have new client inquiries. Now it's over Zoom, so it's a little easier, but I would do it in person just the same. Yeah, if someone blames you for being thorough and taking notes, they're probably not your best client. If anyone's read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, anyone? It's a damn good book written a long time ago, and it's still very true today. And his entire thesis is, getting people to like you is the way that they'll want to work with you professionally. They will want, you can influence someone by being liked by them. How do you get liked by them? To listen more than you talk, to have shared context, to give compliments as long as they're sincere, finding common ground. And if I were to distill this into a tactical principle that we want to do early in the process, like we're conveying, we're sharp, we're enthusiastic, all of those things are happening, but we're in the discovery phase. Find something that is a shared context and a complement. These first two, context and complement. So it tells you, like, I mean, an example could be silly, such as you enjoy the same sports teams, or your kids have the same thing because you're touring the house and you saw something that, like, it doesn't matter, but find some shared common ground and then give some sincere compliments. People are just going to respond very positively to that. Compliments don't have to be personal, could be on the house, could be on their design choices, whether you fully love them or not, could be on their landscaping, it could be on anything. But context and compliments early and often is a good way to go. So yeah, that's the discovery phase. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Well, we just went through these first two. Let's keep moving then, if you have no questions. The appointment flow, from like, how do you conduct it? Again, if you want to change these, it's up to you, but is that warm welcome. You set the tone early. We're getting ready to talk about that. Discovery, which is those questions, and then the property tour. So to recap, it's like, thanks for having me over. The purpose of today is to listen, learn, fill in the blank. And I would love to learn more about what brings us here today, your potential, home sale, timelines, and all that stuff. So would love to sit down and chat about that. Well, you want the tour first? I would love to take the tour, but you go back to your framework and we'll get into like how to say it here in a second. But once you've done discovery and you've set the tone, everything gets easier, including the tour. So before touring, before the price discussions, before marketing plans, you want to communicate a process that you understand their goals first and that you're intentional with the time that you have. This is how you set the tone, but more importantly, it just signals leadership. It prevents like all that stuff about like, well, what do you charge? We're getting to that, but I'd love to listen and learn. Like at the bottom here, I gave you an example. If they say, well, what do you charge? You could say, I can't wait to talk about that. But first, I'd like to understand more about your goals. I could, better understand your situation before we get into like what I do and how I do it. And you could even take it a step further and say this next part, which is one of my favorite. It's the bottom half of this example. They say like fee and what makes you our best choice. And it comes out kind of early, a little bit more aggressive. Say, I'm not sure I'm the right person yet. I'm not sure I'm your best choice even. I have no clue. I love the house. And thanks for having me over. On paper, this looks perfect for right up my alley. But I'm here to listen and learn and evaluate whether we're a good fit to work together. And by the end of today's meeting, I'll absolutely be able to tell you that. But just like you're evaluating me, I'm here to evaluate if I can get you the results that you're looking for out of your sale. It does me no good to take on listing clients that I can't serve their goals. You're just going to be frustrated. We're not going anywhere. And I'm not in this business to take listings I can't sell. I only want to work with people that I believe I can get them the results that they want. Sound fair? Okay, yeah. So I'm like, to answer your question, I don't know from your best choice yet. We'll come back to it, but setting the tone early is like saying you have an agenda, how you like to go through it. And if they want to tour first, I like to say, would love to see the house, but I would love to understand your goals so I can view the home through the right lens. What does that mean? If they need to sell tomorrow and they're being relocated and his wife is 8 months pregnant and all this stuff's going on, like we're probably not going to paint the walls and change the carpets and run. Like there's a different strategy for that. We've got a 2-month runway versus a fire drill. We got to get it up and running now. You don't have to come out and say all this, but like you have nuance to the way you can approach their sale, right? I assume yes. So that's where taking the tour and without getting some of these details is just way early in my view. So to kind of come back to this, how you can sidestep some of these questions, my favorite are these, when they start getting into like, well, what do you want to know and all this stuff. Say, look, before we get into some of my questions, I just want to make it clear, like the only way I grow my business is when I have a lot of happy clients. Because when they're so happy with what I did, they can't help but to leave me that 5-star review and refer me to all their friends and family. In fact, I'm depending on that from you if we work together. And so everything that I do is to ensure that we are completely aligned, that I can get you the results that you want and can over deliver in all the things that matter most to you. Because like literally that's the only way my business grows. It just puts you guys as a team, not as adversaries, when you start framing things that way. And it allows you to say the second part, which is because of that, I'm here to really understand, listen, and learn. And by the end of it, like I'll have some clarity whether we're a good fit to work together. But as of this moment, I'm here to evaluate that decision as much as you're to evaluate whether I'm your best choice. You can take it a step further if this helps you. I did this at times, not others. It seems to go about the same for me. But you can say something like, I can only take on so many clients. I don't delegate. I don't have 3 assistants doing everything for me. Like when you hire me, you get me. And so I can only take on so many clients. I've got spots for X amount. And so I've got a couple of appointments every week, and I just want to make sure that we're a good fit before we agree to work together. And using that, I have an amount of people I can serve at a high level is a very good way to frame that. And I also believe it signals something very important. If any of you right now have, I'm available for your friends, family referrals, your home buying, selling, and renting needs from if you're saying you're open to everyone and you help everyone the same, I don't think you have a strong position to operate from. If you say I'm exclusive, by design, I'm not for everyone, in that I only work with a handful of people, those that I believe I could really serve and help at a high level. And walking in today, I think that you are one of those people. But my goal today is to truly understand what's important to you and see if I can be your right choice. Frame something like, they may not get you. By the end of the conversation, the answer is, maybe I'm not your best choice, is a complete 180 from what most agents are saying coming in the door. You ever go on a date and someone's like not that interested in you and it kind of makes you like them more? You ever go to, like, this is human nature we're talking about. But when it's something like this, where all realtors are coming in hot saying, of course I'm the best and all that stuff, and you show a different level of prudence before you make some of those claims, I just think it sets you apart. Anyone agree? Well, that's my opinion. I'm standing with it. I mentioned this to you already, discovery. Once you frame the conversation, time to get back into discovery. This is a worksheet to like just recap. Warm welcome, set the tone. That's where we just went through. Like, thank you so much for having me today. The purpose is to understand if I'm your right fit, to take a tour of the property, share with you my approach to selling homes, like whatever the couple quick lines that come out. And then you hop into discovery, which is you are not performing anymore. Now you're listening to them. That's where we are. And the nice part about this flow, in my experience, is I would often feel, especially when I'm nervous or I'm taking an expensive listing or going on a nice listing appointment, and I just feel underqualified. Or, I mean, there was a first time I did everything. And certainly in some of those firsts, I would walk in the door feeling so inadequate, nervous, unclear if I can like do it. And when I viewed the listing presentation as a performance that I was there to put on, that was a real like problem, because I couldn't sidestep some of those nerves and feelings. But if you can view the listing appointment not as a performance, but as something that you're there to like engage with, be a part of, but let them do a lot more talking than you, to whatever degree that's possible, at least in the first half, calms those nerves down. Calms those nerves down. Those nerves typically go away after 5 or 10 minutes when you're talking to someone. But if you're the one doing all the talking, the nerves stick around longer and longer. So if I can blow through, thanks for having me over. I'm here today to learn. Let's get into it. What are you going? Why are you? And you just like let them talk for the next 15 minutes. It takes a lot of pressure off. And then you're in your element, you're calm. And then you could take the tour and it doesn't feel so performative in that moment either. So that's the reason for the flow I'm prescribing. If it's not your vibe, don't worry about it. But what happens after the tour? We don't get into like, y'all do it the way you do it. Take some notes, ask questions, fine. We all understand. This is where now we're in part 2 of the appointment, which is, okay, we have to start talking about our marketing plans, the comps, our fees. Ugh, this gets a little scary. Well, how can we keep this shit simple? Here's what I would think. You have a couple pillars in your next steps. First, let's get into your care and competency stories. Basically, this is the part of your plan that you have to start practicing. We can do it together, or you can just read it and practice it and say it into a mirror, maybe record yourself, but get comfortable saying in a few ways what makes you care more and make you a great choice for your clients. And if you've not ever gone through the care and competency exercise, like we'd love to do it with you. It's part of what we like to do. But at the core, it's like, who's Jonathan and why should we potentially consider hiring them? And there are parts of my value proposition that are coming that are more tactical about how we prepare and price and market and blah, blah, blah. But like at the core, why me? That's care and competency. And so that's the beginning part of the conversation. And it allows you to then move smoother into like the plan. If they haven't bought in by now, after you've listened, you've talked, and you've done all those things, and now described a little bit more about your philosophy, your approach, if they're not buying and it feels ice cold in that moment, man, it doesn't matter what you talk about, the plan, your fees, like all of that stuff is just, you're not going anywhere. And so for me, if I can start there, it gives me a gut check where we are in this appointment. If I feel there's some skepticism, if I feel there's like maybe just some questions unanswered, but we're vibing in the right direction, I'm not getting into the plan yet. I'm going to try to stay with the story. You know, what questions do you have for me? And just see where the conversation goes and really try to address things. That's just me. Because let's be honest, they're not buying features of your value proposition or anything. Like up until this point, everything is like really important. These next couple of steps are just to solidify. So the second part is the plan. I would break it into what they do versus I do. This is a framework. Maybe this helps you, maybe not. It looks this way. Most realtors approach a sale like this with the following plan. Marketing plan, they put a sign, a lockbox, they do an open house on the first weekend, but like that's great. Yet it's 2026 and there's some tools and technologies and stuff that we can leverage to market your home faster, further to the right buyer. So we're not just blasting this to the world. We're getting into the right hands of the right people that are looking for a home just like yours. And you're going to be our worst kept secret. And here's how I approach it. So you kind of give a generic view of how most agents do something, how you do it. That's in your approach. Most agents, you know, they either have one of two things. They're either a solopreneur and they're wearing all the hats in their business, or they have a big team where they're delegating everything. And though that all works, what I do is the following. And you could say something effective. I work on the things that matter. I would do all your marketing. I would delegate these couple things, but I've got help with this. I have a transaction coordinator for that. And we work hand in glove as a team to ensure that 7 days a week, you're fully supported and your goals are front and center throughout the process. So the what they do versus I do becomes a part of like almost your value proposition, but it's a framework that I find to be very effective when you're not calling anyone out in specific. You're just saying how most agents approach it. And so we can develop what that looks like probably one-on-one a lot better than in a group setting this way. But then the third part of it is now that we got you and your care and competency, your plan, how you approach selling a home like theirs and all the different cool things that go with it, call it your unique value proposition. We've got this cover story called the brokerage. Everyone has a brokerage. If you are your own broker, like Steve and Joe's, you have your own brokerage. You guys are small, nimble, and mighty. Guess what? If you're competing against Sotheby's or Compass or Remax, these huge conglomerates, you can beat them up and down the block because your brokerage has a story that those brokerages don't have. If you present it the right way. On the other side, if you work for a big company or your company has some unique things about it that drew you to want to be there, like they're not buying your brokerage. I'm not confused, but it's a good cover story to basically fill in some of the gaps. for people that are needing some like just assurance. And if you work for a big company, you can say we have largest brokerage in the company or in the country by volume. You could say we have better tools, technology, this, that, and the other. But my point is your brokerage has some things that make it great. It's worth highlighting only after you've done your care and competency and your plan. And it does solidify those last couple parts that might be missing from the plan. And I'll give you some frameworks to easily talk about this. My favorite is the listings to listings. If you have a couple ways that you talk about the broad marketing plan, you can integrate your brokerage. You know, they have this, that, and the other, and your home's going to go everywhere on thousands of websites and blah, 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 blah. What I would suggest is because we have the listings to listings plan, which is a hyper local targeted approach to source your best buyer within a few hundred homes of your listing. And that's another piece of the plan that you deploy that most agents don't. Like it really helps fill in the gaps. So said differently, in fact, I wish I had an example of it today. I could probably pull it up real quick. We have a worksheet front and back that some of our clients include in their listing packages, which basically says the 5 ways outside of the normal that I source our best buyer, like on a local level. And it's just a listings to listings plan. We do neighbors only events. We do direct mail. We leverage digital ads. We leverage this, that, and it's like, smokes, that's a really hyper local way that you source buyers. So you got the brokers doing the big stuff. I'm doing this stuff over here. And together we're a fantastic team. It's a pretty solid part of the conversation. And only at that point does it make any sense to get into what it is you charge and why you charge it. If anyone felt before this point, well, what if they ask, I talk about care and competency. Okay, what is it like? What does it cost to work with you? Or what's your agreement term length? It's your appointment. You can say, we're getting to that in a minute, but first let me quickly run through this so that all makes sense in context. What do they want to say? No? They say no. It's like, okay, like you're just going to hire based on the assumption of who charges a certain amount. Like what's that amount you're looking to pay? It would just be like a weird thing if you didn't allow yourself to go through. And so I do think it's okay to control the appointment and say, we're getting there. Let me just go through a couple things. My only caveat is if you find yourself, and this happens, talking about like stuff that you just feel like they're like, I don't care. And you could just see it on their face, move through it quickly. And maybe you could just ask, be like, I'm here to, answer any of your questions and obviously compete for your business. I would love to earn it. These are some really important parts of what that looks like. And it's criteria, my guess is you're going to utilize when making that decision. But what part of this is most important to you? Like, I don't want to talk about stuff that doesn't matter. And if you did that in the discovery, maybe you already have that ammunition, remember? So you can go back to it. But if you feel like you're not going anywhere and it's just falling flat, you don't have to go through all of those 3 pillars evenly. You can address it. Look, what's most important and what would make sense to talk about at this point? And if they just want to talk about fee, my recommendation is to not just say, I charge 3%. It would say, happy to get into that. Sounds like that's a really important part of this process for you. Is there anything else other than fee that is equally as important or important about selling on your timeline and terms? Like, see if it's truly that, or if there's other parts and that's just something they want to know about straight away. And that's just part of the objection handling, which is going to be in our second training. But bottom line, the appointment at this point runs best when you have clarity on what steps and order you're going to take, and you're conveying what's most important, which is enthusiasm, sharp, expertise, and asking for the business at some point throughout the meeting. That assumes it's a competitive appointment. The only difference is if it's not competitive and it's a come list me thing, like still be prepared, still do all that stuff, but just you don't have to lean so hard on certain things. You go there and make some more assumptive statements. So like when we get your home on the market, when we go, like that's the kind of language you can start using. When it's competitive, you can't do that. And you just got to stick to script. Any thoughts or questions? Was that helpful to start to conceptualize the listing appointment? And does that change anyone's mind about what they're currently doing? Like anything come up? Nothing. Good grief. Now, jokes aside, I know some of you are just taking notes and doing other things. We've got a part 2 to this in 2 weeks. What I would like to see from anyone that's listening to this that feels there's something maybe to missing about their listing presentation, whether it's before the appointment, they have no package going out, no good sense of the type of email with testimonials and client success going out. Maybe it's that, fine, you have that, you go to the appointment and you just don't have clarity on how you describe your marketing plan, leveraging your brokerage, listings to listings, care and competency. Like that's all stuff we can hammer out in some one-on-one sessions. And then it's up to you to just role play it and get more comfortable. But I promise you, what we talked about today is based on being a fly on the wall on lots and lots of listing appointments and also conducting many myself. These are the kinds of things that move people that when it's competitive, a lot of agents miss. And if you do otherwise, you're going to have a lot more success converting and closing. So let me know if I can help in our one-on-ones. And if there's anything missing, like let's attack it before 2 weeks from now. Gosh, I talked for an hour. I am so sorry, guys. That probably sounds like nails on a chalkboard, but ultimately I was just wanted to like run through it and ping me if I can help, okay? All righty. Y'all have a good one. We'll talk to you very soon.